daughter.
I really do. I think you're gorgeous. Yeah, you really appeal to me. I think you're hot. I really, really, really love you, and I really, really, really want to take you out.
It's like being the meat market now. You know, you got your fresh choice. You got this, you got that, you got your cut here, you got all kind of cuts.
Dennis Rodman looked straight into the camera and said something that made everyone uncomfortable. Life in the NBA breaks down like this, he explained. 50% sex, 50% money. This wasn't a joke or some exaggeration for the cameras. This was a 5-time NBA champion telling you exactly what happened when nobody was watching.
50% of life in the NBA is sex. The other 50% is money. You really believe that?
Of course.
What he revealed about his years with Madonna and Carmen Electra, about those Chicago Bulls championship runs, goes beyond any highlight reel you've ever seen. The league tried to keep this story quiet. 5 rings, 7 straight rebounding titles, and a Hall of Fame career later, Dennis Rodman lived a life most people can't even imagine. But here's the part nobody talks about. He almost didn't survive it. By the end of this video, you'll understand why a man who had everything ended up with the one regret that still haunts him today. Las Vegas, 1994, and Dennis Rodman is standing at a craps table in one of the big casinos on the Strip. Chips stacked high, dice in his hand, completely focused on the game when his phone rings. The dealer announced it loud enough for everyone to hear that Dennis has a call from Madonna. The entire casino probably stopped for a second because in 1994, Madonna wasn't just famous, she was the most recognizable woman on planet Earth. 300 million records sold, net worth over $100 million. And when she called, you picked up. Rodman answered, and what came next changed his whole night. Madonna told him she was ovulating and he didn't even know what that meant at first, had to ask her to explain. She wanted a baby right then, the biological window was closing, and she decided Dennis Rodman was going to be the father. Most people would need time to process that kind of request, maybe book a flight for the next day and figure out logistics. Madonna didn't do logistics, she did power moves. A private G5 jet was waiting for him at the airport within hours. One of the most famous women in music history had sent her personal aircraft across the entire country because her ovulation window was open and she wanted one specific man. And this wasn't a planned pregnancy or a doctor's appointment. This was a phone call at a craps table and a jet in the air before midnight. Rodman got on that plane, flew from Vegas to New York, went to Madonna's place and did exactly what he came to do, then got right back on the jet and returned to Vegas. Same casino, same table, same dice, like the whole thing never happened.
I tried over here, over by Central Park. She had that big 3-story place over there. I was rolling the dice in Vegas, and that's a good story. That's one a good story. I was rolling the dice in Vegas, and she's in New York. She calls, and next thing you know, the pit boss said, "Hey, Dennis, you got a call from Madonna." He just screams it, right? And I said, what the hell with you, man? That's bullcrap, right? So he said, "No, Dennis, you got a call from Madonna." So I said, "Hold the dice, get the calls." And she said, "Dennis, you know what? I'm ovulating." I said, "What?" You're ovulating? I said, "What is that?" She sent a plane for me, G5. I went to the airport, came here, flew here, went over that thing over to her house, did my thing, went back on the plane, got back, held the table, started playing dice again.
So you just went there, had sex, got on the plane, and went back.
That's a true story. That's all it is.
Was there at least some foreplay? Did you put some music on?
No.
You just got right to it?
I'm trying to get back to the table, man.
I'd have been like, you can't stay and cuddle or nothing?
You get Madonna pregnant, you really hit the lottery.
Yes.
Do people cuddle?
But the story gets even wilder from there. According to Rodman, Madonna made him an offer that same night, $20 million if he successfully got her pregnant. $20 million cash for a baby with the Queen of Pop, and he says he tried his best, but it didn't work out, though the offer was real. That's the world NBA players lived in during the 90s. That's the level of access they had, and that kind of insanity was just considered normal.
Were you disappointed that you didn't get her pregnant?
No. Well.
That would add to the legend. That would add to the legend.
Well, you know, she asked me that if I got her pregnant, she'll pay me $20 million.
What?
Chicago 1997, and the Bulls are in the middle of their dynasty run. Michael Jordan is hunting championships, Scottie Pippen is dominating, and Dennis Rodman is dating Carmen Electra, one of the most famous women in America at the time. Baywatch star, Playboy cover girl, instantly recognizable everywhere she went, and Carmen started seeing Dennis right after his thing with Madonna ended, which pulled her into a lifestyle she wasn't ready for. The Berto Center was where the Chicago Bulls practiced, the same building where Jordan studied game film for hours, and where Pippen trained in the weight room, the same place where they planned how to beat the best teams in the league. Carmen told interviewers that she and Dennis would show up there at 3 in the morning during the championship season when staff wasn't around and security would let them in. They had the whole building to themselves and got into trouble everywhere: the physical therapy room, the weight room, raiding the fridge, 4 popsicles like 2 kids breaking into a candy store, 3 in the morning at the practice facility while the rest of the team was home sleeping before another game. But there's one story that shows you how serious the Bulls were about winning, even with all this chaos happening. Middle of the night at Rodman's apartment in Chicago, Carmen's there with him, and suddenly there's a knock at the door. Dennis jumps up immediately, tells Carmen it's Michael Jordan, and says he's got to go to practice. And he's gone just like that. Michael Jordan at the door meant championship business, and everything else could wait. That Bulls team finished 72-10 that season, best record in NBA history at that point. And their third best player was living like this the night before games while they still dominated everyone. Carmen tried keeping up with Dennis for a while and really gave it her best shot. Every single night followed the same routine. Game ends, they'd grab dinner, then hit the clubs, then the after-hours spots, then maybe make it home around sunrise, if at all. She described feeling like she was just trying to hang with the guys and match Dennis's energy, but she couldn't do it. Waking up the next day completely destroyed, head pounding and body exhausted, while Dennis would roll out of bed and head to practice, sometimes a little late, but he'd still go. She watched him do this over and over, couldn't figure out how it was physically possible, and started thinking he wasn't even human. Years later, Rodman admitted what was really happening and said he was burning both ends for a long time, living this double life every single day for 3 straight years. He's surprised he's still here to talk about it, and when you think about that for a second, the math doesn't add up. Partying until 6 in the morning, practice at 10, then grabbing 20 rebounds that same night. Phil Jackson watched all of this unfold from the sidelines, couldn't stop it, could only try to manage it, and hope Dennis showed up when it mattered. When Rodman started partying, nobody knew when it would end. Shaquille O'Neal battled Rodman in the paint for years and watched him operate up close during games. Even Shaq couldn't believe what he was seeing, and he told a story on his podcast that perfectly captures how wild things were back then. Rodman would finish a game, not even shower, just throw his clothes on over the sweat and walk straight into the club, and women would still be all over him. That's the level of fame we're talking about, where a man could skip basic hygiene and still have models fighting for his attention because the status overpowered everything else. Rodman described what road life was actually like in an interview with Stone Phillips, and the location didn't matter at all. Could be a huge market like Los Angeles or New York, could be somewhere random like Canton, Ohio, or North Dakota, and it made no difference. Women would be waiting at the hotels outside the arenas packed into the clubs, and they'd bus in from surrounding areas just for a chance. Rodman called it a meat market where you had your pick of whatever you wanted, whoever you wanted, with all the choices right there in front of you. And here's what made the 90s completely different from today. No social media, no camera phones, no TMZ tracking private jets, no Twitter exposing who was at which hotel. What happened on the road stayed on the road, period, and players could do absolutely whatever they wanted while the public would never know. The freedom was unlimited and the consequences seemed non-existent. Rodman, Jordan, and Pippen won 3 straight championships together in Chicago during 3 years of dominating the league. But here's something that'll shock you. Rodman revealed that he, Michael, and Scottie never had a real conversation during those entire 3 years. And the only time they talked was on the basketball court about the game. 3 championships together with 0 friendship because they didn't need to be close or bond or hang out, just needed to show up and destroy whoever was in front of them. Whatever they did after games was separate, private, completely compartmentalized, and that's how those champions operated. The money situation was insane when you look at the actual numbers. That 72-win season in 95-96 set the record for best regular season in NBA history at the time, and Michael Jordan made $33 million in his final Bulls season, which was the highest single-year salary in league history back then and more money than some entire team payrolls. Meanwhile, Dennis Rodman's entire NBA career earnings added up to $27 million total. And when you consider that Madonna's net worth when they were dating was over $100 million, and she offered him $20 million just for a baby, the math didn't even make sense, but there was a cost to all of this that nobody saw coming, and the numbers tell the story. NBA divorce rates run between 60 and 80%, with some former players claiming it's even higher than that. Rodman's first marriage to Annie Bakes lasted exactly 82 days, while his marriage to Carmen Electra went like this. They got married in Vegas during one wild night and filed for annulment 9 days later. 9 days, which isn't a marriage. That's a weekend that went completely wrong. Now, we need to go back to 1993, before the Bulls dynasty, before Carmen, before Madonna, before any of the fame we've been talking about. Dennis Rodman is sitting alone in his car in the parking lot outside the Palace of Auburn Hills, the Detroit Pistons arena, and he has a pressed into his mouth. Years later, he told this story in an interview and didn't hold anything back, explaining how he had Pearl Jam playing on the stereo, and at some point just fell asleep like that with the gun still there and the music still playing.
Had a gun to my mouth, and I fell asleep to Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
Pearl Jam and stuff like that. I think that actually saved me.
Yeah.
I fell asleep like that, and I think the whole city of Detroit was around my car, playing on stuff like that. and they want to put me in a mental hospital. I said, I'm not mentally done, but I think a lot of people knew what I was going through.
When he woke up, the entire city of Detroit had surrounded his car with police everywhere, fans, media, everyone. They wanted to put him in a mental hospital, but Rodman says he wasn't mentally ill and people just didn't understand what he was going through. So what pushed him to that parking lot with a gun in his mouth? A woman, and the betrayal that came with her because his first wife, Annie Bakes, had apparently cheated on him with one of his Pistons teammates, someone he saw every single day and someone he trusted. The betrayal broke something deep inside him that never fully healed. The Pistons coach Chuck Daly found out what happened and felt so terrible for Rodman that he actually cut the other player from the team. But the damage was already done, and Dennis carried that pain with him for years. The pain went back even further than that relationship, though, back to when his mother kicked him out at just 17 years old, and he lived on the streets for 4.5 years after that. His father left the family when Dennis was 5, moved to the Philippines, and had 47 other children that never came back and never reached out. The man who would later date the most famous women alive and live this wild NBA lifestyle we've been talking about almost ended his own life in a parking lot because deep down he'd never felt truly loved. December 2024, 30 years after that parking lot moment, and Trinity Rodman sits down for an interview on the Call Her Daddy podcast. She's famous now too as an Olympic gold medalist and one of the best soccer players in America, and she's Dennis Rodman's daughter. The host asks her about her relationship with her father, and Trinity doesn't hold back or sugarcoat anything.
Coping mechanism for it was posting our mom. Like, Happy Father's Day, thanks for being both. Yeah. And that's no disrespect to the father figures. Like, still, a day to celebrate dads and fathers. But for us, that's our dad. That's our mom and our dad in the weirdest way. And even just comments like that, like, don't disrespect him like that. It's like, that's not disrespect. He's not a dad.
Right.
He's a person. He's not a dad. Maybe by blood, but nothing else.
She talks about how her coping mechanism growing up was posting pictures of her mom on Father's Day with captions like, "Thanks for being both parents." And people would comment saying she shouldn't disrespect her father like that. But Trinity's response cuts deep when she explains that it's not disrespect because he's not a dad. He's a person, maybe by blood, but nothing else. That's Dennis Rodman's daughter talking about him. And the cycle he tried to escape ended up repeating itself. The man who grew up without a father became an absent father himself. Springfield, Massachusetts on August 20th, 2011, and Dennis Rodman walks onto the stage at the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. The room is packed with legends, cameras rolling, every eye on him, and this is supposed to be his greatest moment, but he can barely speak. Tears are streaming down his face, voice cracking, breaking down completely in front of everyone who ever watched him play.
And maybe hopefully that in the future that I can actually try to be somewhat of a good individual and a good father to my kids. Male figures. I never had a father. My father left me when I was 5 years old. He has 47 kids in the Philippines, and I'm the oldest one. And he wrote a book about me in Chicago, and he made a lot of money, but he never came and said hello to me.
The man who grabbed 23,000 rebounds and won 5 championships, who defended Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, and Shaquille O'Neal, who dated Madonna and married Carmen Electra and partied harder than anyone in league history, standing at a podium and sobbing. He talked about hoping that in the future he could try to be a good person and a good father to his kids. Then he brought up his own dad and the man who left when Dennis was 5 years old. Rodman told everyone that his father has 47 kids in the Philippines and Dennis is the oldest one, then explained how his father even wrote a book about him in Chicago and made a lot of money from it, but never once came to say hello. Not one time, just cashed checks off his son's fame and disappeared. And Dennis became the exact same thing. The absent father, the man who chose everything else over his children. The cycle that started with his dad continued through him, and all that fame, all those women, all those championships, all that money and access and power couldn't fix it. His one real regret standing at the Hall of Fame podium had absolutely nothing to do with basketball. That's what the 90s NBA lifestyle really did to players like Rodman. He said it himself at the beginning when he broke down life in the NBA as 50% sex and 50% money, but what he didn't say in that quote was what it cost. The league gave players access to everything they could imagine, every desire, every fantasy, every wild night, private jets, the most famous women in the world, unlimited freedom, no cameras, no consequences, no limits whatsoever, but it left many of them with nothing that actually mattered, and the wreckage was real. Broken marriages, broken families, broken relationships with their own children that could never be repaired. Rodman had the private jet story with Madonna that sounds like a movie. He had the championship rings and the Hall of Fame career. But when he stood at that podium in 2011, none of that was what he cared about. The thing eating him alive was that he became his father, the man he resented most in the world. Today's NBA is completely different from that era. Social media exposes everything. Camera phones catch every moment. and players can't hide anymore like they used to. Some people say that's worse, and the pressure's too much now, while others say the 90s players had it easier because they could do whatever they wanted. But after hearing Dennis Rodman's story, you have to wonder which era really had it harder. The one with all the freedom and no accountability, or the one with all the exposure and constant judgment. Rodman survived the 90s NBA lifestyle, but barely, and he admitted he's surprised he's still here. When you look at what that life gave him versus what it took away, it's hard to say he actually won anything that mattered. 5 championship rings can't fix a relationship with your kids. Hall of Fame speeches can't undo decades of absence, and all the fame in the world can't fill the hole left by a father who never loved you. If this story hit different, smash that like button. Drop a comment below and tell me whether you think today's NBA players have it easier or harder than the 90s generation.